I just wanted to find out, how are you guys doing? How has JavaScript been teaching you? And how are you finding it? We can start with you, Tion.
I actually wanted to start, so thank you. Um, I was talking to Jade in the week, and I'm not sure if William's having the same problem with JavaScript. So it's like we understand what a function is, what objects are, what errors are, and how like the syntax of the different functions and elements in JavaScript. But when it's time to compile a program, then it gets confusing because you don't know what goes first. I know that, okay, you have to create a variable, you have to initialize a variable, but you don't, like, for example, it starts getting confusing when you want to write a function. Now we don't know if the variable is supposed to go inside the function or outside. There's so many different ways of doing things, even if you look on the internet. So in essence, what I'm trying to say is we understand terminology and syntax, but the rules of putting it together is a bit confusing.
Okay, so basically applying what you are learning, applying and knowing when to use a function or where to declare your variables. Okay,
Yeah.
so usually I think declaring your variables outside is more recommended, because that way it's in the local scope, right? In the global scope, sorry. So if it's like that, it's better. But then if it's locally as well, it's also a good thing, right? So I think just reading documentation and just knowing when to use what, because programs differ, right? And if programs differ, it's an advantage to use certain things in certain objects, for example, right? But yeah, I think just applying yourself. So after you read a section, for example, on arrays, right, try to go back on YouTube, see how people use arrays and in what context are arrays used. You know what I mean? All right, I want to quickly just share my screen. Mm, okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
All right, so for example, like inspecting a page. So this is like the Tesla landing page, where you can just inspect it and see the code that was written by Tesla itself, right? So this is the code. Just going here and playing in the console, right? So for example, let's declare let student is equal to, let's say, well. Okay, so we declared that variable, and then let age equal to, let's say, 20. Okay, and then being able to just play around with this and knowing, okay, what can I use these two variables for, right? And then let's maybe console.log using, okay, I'm going to use template literals because I prefer them more. Okay, so now I want to use will. I want to say will is 20, right? So instead of saying will is 20, I'm using the variable student. Um, so in place of saying will, I'm just going to use the variable because we stored William in student, the variable student, right? And then I'm going to say is,
Could I possibly interject?
sorry.
Can I interject quickly?
Okay, cool.
I agree with you, and I think we all understand let student equal will and let age equal 20 and what's undefined and what console log is.
Mhm.
But I think, could I possibly request from Microsoft that you guys do, and it doesn't have to be as large a project as a shopping cart, something perhaps smaller, but where we given a step-by-step instruction. This is the first thing you need to do. You're either going to initialize your products, or you have to do your buttons first, or you have to do this, or you have to do that, and when to use an object, when to use an array, when not to do it, and what the rules are in connection with JavaScript. If it can just be a small project that we can understand the step by step, what's step one, what's step two, what's step three.
Okay.
I think what you're doing now, I personally feel was covered in the Malsoft material, but that's
Mm-hmm.
all we know. We don't know how to implement it. So we know what A is, we know what B is, we know what C is,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't know how to talk the language. We don't know how to put THE together to create the word the. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think we've kind of been thrown into a massive, well, for me, what essentially seems to be a massive project. And I have managed to get something together, but I feel like everybody's going to start falling even further behind because it doesn't seem to be a tutorial from Microsoft where they explain how to put all these concepts together into one box.
Okay.
Uh,
All right. So, in terms of you guys saying you need to apply what you're learning, right? We have different coding challenges for you guys. I don't know if you guys noticed that. I just have to find it though. So, for example, I remember for, was it string interpolation? Yeah, using strings. There was a coding challenge on how to use that. So, do you guys think those are not enough, or what else could we implement basically? Because
I
for
think
me
it's
personally, I think this course is a very good course because they offer quizzes as well. And then on top of that, there's a lot of coding challenges that I've done. Let me just go quickly to when we were working with JavaScript for the first time. I remember we did a coding challenge. So there was like a coding challenge for every little section that we were doing. Um, like for example, this one. I think it was this one. Yeah, this was the section where we applied arrays, right? And this was a small project that you could do by yourself. I realize a lot of people skip through these sections and they don't really go through it, right? But these are also very important because now you're applying what you've learned. So, for example, this was the array ones where I declared an array with the different kind of movies that I liked, and then being able to implement that. Okay, on index 0, I want to get Pursuit of Happiness, or at index 4, I will get Bad Boys, right? So, do you guys think that those are not enough? Because I personally think they really, really helped me. Are you guys there?
I think I don't want to speak for Jade, but I feel like what Jade is trying to say is
Mm-hmm.
remember how we were walked through making the capstone for the website. Like, okay, first you're gonna do this, first you're gonna do that, then we're gonna like a header, like the structure of how JavaScript should be built. So it's like we know our ABCs. We don't know how to construct the essay from what we're learning. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay. Okay. Can you maybe repeat what you're saying? Maybe I'm not really understanding. Maybe put it in a different context.
Okay, so for example, when we were learning HTML, the videos were in structure and they were in order. And everyone that I've spoken to is having the same problem where we're learning JavaScript, but we don't know when it's time for a challenge how to construct our code. Like we don't know the steps, what goes first, what goes last. We know when to use arrays, we know when to use variables, we know what a function is for, we know what's the difference between arrays and objects, strings and integers. But when it's time to put everything together into practice, it becomes a problem. Like we don't know how to structure it, like from step one to step two. Because remember, coding is an algorithm. It's like making a cup of tea. We don't know, should we boil the water first? Should we take out the cup? If I'm making sense.
Okay, I understand now. I
We
understand.
don't know the algorithm and
Okay, so
structure.
I think that's something I would have to pass on to Mr. Larif and Loris, and they will have to get back to you guys on that. So in the meantime, I think what I would advise you guys is to try to get like external resources as well. Like for me personally, I do use the course for Microsoft Academy, but I always find myself going to find out other resources because maybe they explain it better or they just go in depth, right? And then when it comes to application, the best way of applying yourself is building projects, right? And there's no way that you're gonna know every single thing, right? There's no way. There's no way. So I think just keep on building the project and allow yourself to apply the things that you've learned. Okay. All right. William, you have your hand up?
Yes, no, I just want to say this is what I do. So when it's time for one of those challenges, what I do is I will write the pseudocode to say this is what I need to do, and then I will start writing the code like how I think it should be done. And then I go to ChatGPT and I paste my code, and then I tell them, I ask him to tell me if this is fine, or if it isn't, then he needs to fix it and give me recommendations, and as well to explain the code to me so that I can just see if I can just get another understanding of that as well.
That's perfect. That's so perfect. Okay, so William is saying that he uses ChatGPT, which is one of the resources that I would say is the best as well. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so if you guys are feeling a bit lost, I will definitely talk to Larif about that. So you guys want a way where you are able to know, okay, this is what I need to do first. Then I need to use arrays when I'm faced with this. Then I have to use functions for this and that, right? Okay. All right, cool. I'll pass on that message. But how are you guys doing? Which part of the course are you right now? And what challenges are you facing? Let's start with Arlincia.
Hi everyone. So I am at the discount eligibility part now, and I'm actually very stuck. I think it's because of the same thing that Jade and Dion was speaking about. We don't have like a example using all of the things that we just learned. So we don't know where or how to start our code and stuff like that. But I did go over the she codes JavaScript basic section, so that helped me with one of the challenges, and I think it helped me understand a bit more of this discount eligibility section. But I'm still stuck somewhere. I'm still stuck
Okay.
somewhere.
Okay. So what are you stuck on? What is your specific thing that you're stuck on?
The checkbox thing, like how do you interpret it into, how can I say, when let's say for instance, if you are a member and you check the box, like how do you get the output? Like,
Okay. Okay, can you repeat that? I didn't quite get it.
so when you check the box to say that you are a member, like how do you interpret that into the output?
Okay, okay. All right, I'm gonna share my screen. Mm, Okay. All right. So this was my discount eligibility program, right? So this is the HTML. So the first things first, I have this button, right? So this button has an on click attribute. Okay. So every time the button is clicked, it will run the function to check eligibility, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then where I declared this function was in my JavaScript. Okay, so that triggers the JavaScript. So let's go to the JavaScript part that I wrote. So this is the function that runs every time that we press the button that says check eligibility. Okay. So you are asking that how to control the output. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Someone is not muted. Can you please mute? I don't know who it is. Okay. So you're saying you're struggling with which part, Alicia?
So the button is okay for now, but like if you click the check eligibility, so
Yes.
the coding challenge says that
Mm-hmm.
if you are a member and if you're over the age of 18 or you are 18,
Mm-hmm.
and then it gives you an output to say that you are, how can I say, you can get a discount, right?
Yes. Yes.
So, do they need to click the button for that output to come?
Okay. Okay. I hear what you're saying. So
Yeah.
that is why we have these conditional statements over here, right? So basically, the three outputs would be if the person inputs a number that's bigger or equal to 65, it will say that you are eligible for a senior discount, right? And then if the person says that they have an age of greater than 18, greater or equal to 18, and they check on the box that says you are a member, then only it will say, congrats, you are eligible for a discount. Else, everything else, it will just say you are not eligible. So I want to go, let's see, I want to go to the deployed one so we can test that out. Okay, so let's say I'm 8. I'm 8 and I check that I'm a member, right? And then if I click the button, it's going to say, sorry, you are not eligible, right? And then if you're 60, we said if it's greater or equal to 65 or less than equal to 65, I'm not sure. But let's say you're 67 and you're a member and you check for eligibility, it says that you are eligible. But if you don't click that you are a member, it should not be saying you're eligible, right? Well, let me just check. Okay, it says if
Okay.
you're greater or equal to 65, then it will say you're eligible. Okay, so the membership thingy doesn't apply for the
Okay.
people who are greater or equal to 65. Okay, you want to ask something, Alicia?
Yes. So I know that the button needs to have an on-click function. So I'm
Mhm.
asking, should the checkbox also have a function so that when they
No.
click it?
So here's what happens. So every time you have the button clicked, right, it selects the ID of output, okay? And then it will change the inner HTML, basically. And then if, for example, this one, where the person is 18 and they are a member dot checked. So this dot checked is just saying to us when the checkbox is checked, please say that this person is eligible, right? I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yes, you are. That's what I wanted to know. Like the
Yes.
checkbox. How do I include the checkbox in the
Okay.
function? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Does anyone else have more questions? Let's go with Jade. Jade, how's everything going and what challenges are you facing?
You're my challenge.
I'm your challenge. Ah, come on. What did I do?
You asked me to include more bootstraps. I've actually redone the entire project,
Mm-hmm.
especially for you. And I'm struggling to incorporate the existing JavaScript that I've done into a bootstrap template, which has its own JavaScript. And I don't know how I'm going to amalgamate the two.
Okay. All right.
You
Can
know,
we
if possible.
schedule a call together? Then I can help you out then, if that's your issue.
Okay. All right.
All right. Cool. Today or tomorrow? When would you like to have the call?
This afternoon would be better for me.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, cool. This afternoon, I think I'll be free from 3. Yeah,
Okay, that's fine.
3.
Perfect.
Alicia, you have your hand up?
I'm sorry. I was also struggling with GitHub with the previous makeovers app, like getting it on there. Like GitHub just doesn't want to take it. I don't know how.
Okay. Like
Like a million times.
pushing your code to GitHub or deploying
Yes.
or pushing your code.
Yes.
Okay. But I remember I had a call with you this other time and then I showed you how you can do it, right?
Yes, I tried that way and it was like it's not happening. I don't
Okay.
know if it's too much files or something. I don't know, but it doesn't want to. Because I pushed it, but then my thing kind of lost a lot of JavaScript and a lot of like elements, you know. So I kept on trying the whole time.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'll also help you out with that as well. That's
Okay.
fine. Okay. All right, Brenda, I haven't heard anything from you. How are you doing? And what
Hi.
challenges are you faced with?
At the moment, well, I'm still a bit behind, so I'm busy with CSS, but otherwise, I'm not experiencing any difficulties as of yet because I've been getting a lot of advice, especially Tion has been helping me. So yeah, I think I'm sorted for the moment.
All right, cool. Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, and then Tion, you just mentioned that you have a challenge in terms of applying what you're learning, right? And the step by step process that you need to take. What other challenges are you faced with right now?
That's about it. I'm trying to start my capstone today. I'm just busy with breaks and continue statements, and then I just wanted to ask, is there any courses or like additional free courses we can take where it has a more practical approach, not just more reading work, if you know of any?
Okay. I know of Codecademy. So I like to use Codecademy mostly, but some of the courses are paid. So I think it's like 200 rands depending on what course you're taking. And what I like about their courses is that they have like a section where you're reading, and then there's a section where you are editing your code. While you're learning this side, you're editing the code and you're applying the code of what you're learning. So that's one of the resources I'll recommend. And then there's also Free Code Camp. I think you guys can try Free Code Camp. Let me just write down the names. Free Code Camp and Codecademy. Yeah. Yeah, those are the resources I trust and use most of the time. Okay, cool. All right, so guys, I think in terms of the challenges that you are facing, I've heard you, and I will pass down the message to Larif, and then hopefully by next week's meeting, I will update you guys on what will be happening for it.
What's the challenge? Sorry.
So the students are saying, Tion, do you want to explain to Lars?
Hi, Loris, how are you?
Aaron, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. So I spoke to a lot of my cohorts individually and on this call, and I feel like we're all facing the same problem. Whereas we understand variables, we understand objects, we understand integers, arrays, and when to use them. But when it comes down to compiling code from it or like writing a program, it's a problem. So in essence, what the problem that we're all facing is um, we know everything and what's the purpose and what it entails and the differences, but when it's time to structure it, it's a problem. So I feel like we never really caught an understanding of an algorithm because that's how code works. It's like making a cup of tea. So we don't know whether to boil the kettle first or take out the tea bag, you know?
Okay, okay. I hear that. I hear that. I'm gonna pass on to Mr. Larry.
Okay, cool. So I understand. Okay, have you guys tried pseudocode or writing the algorithm first when you're faced with a challenge?
I think William mentioned it. William, you mentioned pseudocode, right? That's what you do.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So what you wanna do is when you're faced with a challenge, because now you know what a loop does, what something does, and how to write it, right? The next step is applying the knowledge practically. And the way you do that is through pseudocode. So pseudocode basically is, you have a problem. Let's say you have a problem that says reverse this string. And the way you do it is you break down the problem into simple English. You write simple English. And then after you've broken down the problem into simple English, for example, if we're breaking down a string, if we're reversing a string, we know that, okay, we need to, you break down the problem into steps. Like, okay, we have a string, we have to break it down, and then we have to reverse it, and then we have to join it back together. This is just an example off the top of my head. So there is a video on how to solve programming challenges. I don't know if you guys saw it. It was about 27 minutes or so. Yes, JD.
Thanks. Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thanks. I think you're talking about the bro code snippet that was included in the Microsoft material, if I'm not mistaken.
No, there was a video that I made. I think it was a long video. It was about 30 minutes or so on how to solve programming challenges.
Yeah, I think you did with the whole pseudocode and everything. But I think what we're struggling with is, for example, the shopping cart. We don't know if we need to put the products into an array first, or do we need to code the buttons first, or do we need to. I don't understand what the first step would be in order to be able to do the second step, to be able to do the third step, if you know what I mean. And I think that's where we're getting a bit confused.
Okay, you mean when you have a capstone project, you're not sure if you should start with the user interface, the HTML, the CSS before you move on to the JavaScript, and in what order do you do that? Is that what you mean?
No, I think I mean in the JavaScript for this project that we're currently doing for the shopping cart. I think all the tutorials I've watched, they all do things slightly differently, which also confuses us. Some people are actually putting the products that we are selling in the shopping cart into an array.
Yeah.
Other people are then calling the element by the ID. Other people are doing something different. So I don't know what is the first thing we actually need to do. We don't have a step-by-step guide in order to even contemplate doing the pseudocode. Because we don't, I'm a bit confused as to what's first, what's second, what's third.
Okay, so I think I understand what you're saying. And all of you probably you've made different progress. You are at different stages, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe someone else is struggling with one thing and you're struggling with another thing. So I think it's an individual problem. It's an individual thing to say, okay, you're struggling with this, you're struggling with that, you're struggling with this, although you're all struggling with the same project. I don't know if that's correct. It's not, is it?
I think also, Larry, what they're trying to say is that they don't know when should I use an array or when should I use an object, for example, like in there.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're kind of confused regarding that.
Okay. I see. So it depends. It depends on the data that you have. For example, for a shopping cart, um, your cart items, as in, let's say your cart items has books. Your book is an object with properties of price and dimensions and things like that, right? That's an object. But for everything that's in your cart, for example, let's say you have a book and then you have a pen or a pencil, and these things are in your cart because these are collective elements. They are all they need to be in an array that says cart. So it mostly depends on what kind of data you have, what kind of information are you trying to store. If you are grouping related items that move together, then the best way is an array, for example, with the cart. But if you want to group things that might not, yeah, if you want to group things, mostly in programming, you're going to be working with either functions or arrays. Those are the two main data types. It's either it's a function or it's an array. I mean, it's either it's an array or it's an object. So you just need to find out, is this an array or is this an object? And then you try and trial and error is the best way to do it. But rule of thumb, if something is grouped together and you want to group things, then it's an array. It can be an array of objects, and that's when things start to get a little bit confusing. It can be an array of objects. So I think the best would be if you guys can share your code, whoever is struggling, just share your code with me, please. I really, really would like to see the code, see how far you are, and then see what the best way is.
Okay. Okay, Jay, do you have a
Um,
question?
Sorry, yeah. I just, in regards to your last comment, so then do we create the objects first and then do the array at the bottom to include the objects above the array, or is it the other way around?
So the first thing that you do in any program is to declare your variables. Declare your variables. So you want to start by saying let cart be empty, right? Empty array. You just put the empty arrays, or just say let cart. So start by declaring all the variables, all the places that you're going to store your information in first. And then once you have your cart, you have your counter, you have all the other variables, then you start creating the objects. Let book objects, or let book be equals to, and then you assign the values and the methods in that array. And then you continue creating your objects, Then once you have all your objects created, now you start writing the functionality. Okay, so what do I want this to do? I want when the button is clicked, I want something added inside this array. I want something removed from this array. I want this specific objects to be manipulated, and so forth. So start by declaring your variables, creating your objects, and then start writing the functionality.
And I think exactly that is what's answered the question for Tian and I. I think if we could have that in a video as part of the course, I think that would have helped us quite a lot. Just having that step by step, not explaining what we need to do, but just in terms of how you've explained it now, would have helped quite a lot. So I think that was one thing that was missing from the coursework for me.
Yeah, we've been getting that request a lot, that the course needs a lot more videos. That's one of the most common feature requests. So we'll definitely be looking into that for sure.
Okay. Do you only have a question?
Not really a question. I just wanted to agree with Jade. I feel like if we had that, what Laura said from the beginning, because even though the coursework explained the basics and the instructions, the coursework never explained how to integrate it into building a program. That's where we got confused, because we're like, what first? Do I first target the button? And so what Laura said now was perfect. That answered the question. Now I feel like at ease, because I know the structure, the algorithm of creating something. I just wanted to say thank you.
Okay, cool. Also, I think, guys, in terms of logic, when you look at a function, you're looking at an array. It's a collection for data, right? So if you are working on a shopping cart, you are trying to do what? Have a collection of products, and your products are going to have different properties and different names or parameters. right? So I think if you understand what a function is and what a function does, then it will be easier for you to know where do I apply this or when do I use this. So spend also more time on trying to understand the logic of why we use functions or why we use arrays. I think that's my advice to you guys as well, because we also passed through that stage where me and my partner Bradley, for example, we were like, okay, so we have this shopping cart to do. Where do we start? We had to figure it out ourselves by going back to the logic of why am I learning arrays? Why am I learning objects? Right? So also keep that in mind. But I do hear you guys in step by step, you would like to know what to do. Right. And also in real life, on your projects, when you're working on a project in a tech company, the client is not going to give you a step by step guide on what you need to do, right? You have to figure that out as a software engineer. And also, it works by preference. For example, I like to start with the front end because it gives me motivation to keep going with the project, right? And then if you want to start at the back end, start with the back end as well. So it goes with preference as well. So someone for the shopping cart would use objects, and then someone would use arrays. There's no right or wrong in that as long as the logic behind it makes sense. I hope I hope I'm making sense to you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to add on to what Tebo just said. So yeah, I get that. Sorry guys, if you hear noises in the background. So I just wanted to say, yeah, like what Tebo is saying, right? There's no one size fits all approach. So it's difficult to create a video on that specifically and be like, do it this way because people have different ways. Programming is like art.
Mm,
It's like art. There's so many ways to skin a cat. So the best way that I would recommend is break down your whole project. Start by breaking down your whole project into small steps, right? Then once you know, okay, my project needs this, and then you start going line by line. You're gonna face problems all the way. On step one, you face problems. Step two, you'll face problems. Sometimes you'll see that step three and step four are one thing. Sometimes.
mm.
So you always face problems, and there's no one video that we can make that will solve all your problems.
Okay. All right. Do you guys have any other questions? No questions? Okay, cool. And then I was also gonna share, you guys should look up the software development life cycle, right? So this is like a very important concept in software development where when you are on a project, you follow steps, right? So this is for project management basically. So you have different steps. Okay, so we have this step where we need to design, and then there's a step where we have to develop, and then there's a step we have to deploy, and all of that. So also try to implement that in your own projects as well, where you give yourself a structure of, okay, this is what I need to do first, and then this is what I need to do second, and then like Larry said, there's different ways that you can skin a cat. So if you are using objects, specify that, okay, I'm going to be using objects. So I'll be researching more on objects, right? And tell us why. Why did you choose to use objects, for example? Okay, so that's all from me, guys. If you have any questions, please let me know. Then, other than that, we can end this meeting. You guys have any questions, Tio?
I wanted to know the SDLC, is it similar to the water flow model?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
So
I just know of the software development lifecycle.
the water flow model is it's a how do you pronounce this word? It's a subsequential
Mm-hmm.
approach. It's like a linear approach of the several phases that must be completed in a specific order. when developing a product or service in software engineering. I think
Mm.
there's five phases of the waterfall model, which is basically like a pseudocode analysis. So first, analyze the problem, what you need to do, design, implementation, testing, and operation.
Yes, okay, yeah, they do sound similar because also in the software development lifecycle, you have six phases, which is the analysis, the design, the development, the testing, the deployment, and the maintaining the application. So I think, yeah, they do sound quite similar.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Any more questions? Okay, cool. All right. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for the turn up today. I'm so happy that you guys are here. And thank you for the questions and expressing your concerns. I'm so happy. I'm so happy that you guys are telling us what you need from us so that we can also help you guys. So, yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Good luck. And please let us know if you need more help. My DMs are always open if you need me. And all the best, guys. Bye.